Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I want to talk about the death of George Floyd and the repercussions from his death. Now, the first thing is when we look at his death, sadly, of course, his family is impacted strongly by this, and I do send out my condolences to the family and close friends of the late George Floyd. Well, the thing about this is this actually goes a lot deeper than this, and I mean we know about the rioting that's been going on as a result of this. There's looting going on. I think a lot of people have just used this as an excuse to rob and steal, sadly, and who knows what else is going on. I don't know if there's vandalism that's occurring as a result of George Floyd's death. If George Floyd was alive, he certainly would not approve or condone this, because George Floyd, from what I read about him on the internet, he's gave me the impression he was a stand-up person, somewhat rather passive and docile. He was referred to as a gentle giant. And for me, I don't know if I could really. It's hard to go into somebody's mind and try to understand how they feel about something. But I think George Floyd would not approve of this or condone what is going on right now. He would respect people that did honor him in his death and would pay tribute to him through posts on Facebook or what have you. That would be positive messages stating that they miss him, or he's gone but surely not lost, or something about the legacy that he left behind. But when you're talking about all this looting, and now what's happening too is there's a slogan, of course many of you heard of it. It's about Black Lives Matter, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what's happening is with this as a result, we're seeing it seems like more of a proliferation of the Black Lives Matter stickers, like on Facebook, and I'm sure there's signs, like I'm sure in stores and what have you. This message is being shown very frequently. But the one thing about this, though, is sadly when people are posting this and they're just expressing their viewpoint on something, and they're just basically conveying that the Black lives are significant, it causes some negative acerbic responses. Unfortunately, you wind up having arguments, say, on Facebook as a result of this. Somebody will put a Black Lives sticker up, and then somebody will contend, stating, well, all lives matter, and then, the blacks, there's more blacks that have killed whites in X amount of period than whites that have killed blacks in X amount of period, and you get all this arguing, and you have situations with friends that become rather contentious and acrimonious as a result. So because of this is causing, it's not even, it goes even beyond just a simplistic racial divide. This is going to a point where it's causing a disparity in differences on social media, and people consequently, sadly in some cases, are deleting, blocking friends, acquaintances they know on Facebook as a result of this. And it's nothing against George Floyd in any way, shape, or form, but this is a subject that's not worth getting rid of people, eradicating people in your life, especially those that have been figured prominently in your life for some time. And the thing about it is, well, what does one do? It's not going to be about not posting the Black Lives Matter stickers. But I think what people have to realize is, in a situation like this, is that what we have to do is, if somebody disagrees with something about what somebody says, there's ways of disagreeing without being disputatious. You can say, well, I really don't, and they could say, well, I understand the message, but at the same time, we need to see maybe another perspective or vantage point on this. And it's also about respecting other people's viewpoints and vantage points on issues. And I think that's imperative at this time. You're having rioting. I don't know if there's any deaths that have come of this, but I believe there's like 14 or maybe even 15 states that are on some kind of curfew right now. We were already going through some mandatory curfews, compulsory curfew, as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. And now, when we're starting, it looks like we're starting to get away from that, and things are easing up. It looks like the coronavirus might be starting to get contained, at least in some places. Now it's being supplanted by another crisis, and now people have to go into their homes earlier on, before a lot of people really want to go in as a result. And it's sad when you have to live in fear and trepidation as a result of a situation like this. And like I said, this is really completely escalating and getting out of control, people. So the thing about it is, I know this is hardly going to do any good. I don't really get much viewership on this channel. I might boost and bolster this post maybe on my Facebook page, but I encourage you people to share this if you can. This is very important. This is very important in that we can't. I mean, I understand George Floyd died unnecessarily. There was something else that happened one time. Many of you may remember, it was about 5 years ago. There was someone named Sandra Bland that had passed, that had died, and there was controversy over whether she hung herself by committed suicide, or did the police kill her. That was a woman that was refused to get out of her vehicle by a cop, and she got into a physical altercation with the policeman. Subsequently, I believe one of her arms were broken as a result, and she was sent off. She was incarcerated. She died shortly after that. And I don't know if you had much rioting as a result of that or anything, but the point is, the thing is, like in a situation like that, I want you to keep this in perspective. The situation with Sandra Bland and the situation with George Floyd have more commonality than you think. I'm not just talking about the color of their skin. Yes, they were both African American people, but, and this is nothing against George Floyd or Sandra Bland, but I think most of us can concur and agree with one thing. If they had been more cooperative in terms of getting in the vehicle, I do believe George Floyd was resisting when the police were trying to put him in. I don't know this 100%, but I do believe close to 100% from what I saw in some footage online that he was resisting, and he would not willingly go into the vehicle. He was providing resistance. Sandra Bland was not cooperating with the policeman initially. If these people had wound up cooperating, I think both people probably would have been alive today, because Sandra Bland may not have even been incarcerated if she had just cooperated and helped the policemen with what they needed to do at that time and just get that information to them. And if George Floyd had gone into the vehicle initially, that would not, probably he would still be alive. I mean, I don't, like I said, I do believe he was struggling and resisting. You may see some video, you could find some videos online pertaining to this. And the thing about this is, people, that if somebody dies, I mean, it doesn't really make sense to pay homage to them by destroying, annihilating buildings, and looting, and I mean, destruction of property or what have you, and looting. I mean, I saw something, it was yesterday online, there was something about where there were protesters that tore down, it was like a White House barricade to get in there. Why are people acting in such a volatile manner over this? I mean, there's other ways you could express your viewpoint rather than by being destructive. I mean, you could have like some kind of online petition or something. There was something that some of you may have heard of him. It's he calls himself the Professor. It's Grace. His first name is, I forget his name exactly. Grayson is part of his name, and he had something on his Facebook page where it would be like some kind of petition or something people can sign through text, through a text, and it was something connected with George Floyd. There's ways of doing this in a more civilized manner. If you want to show your disapproval for something, it doesn't have to be done through truculent and volatile means. And again, I want to reiterate that this is not worth losing friendships over. I think it's imperative to allow people to have their viewpoints and allow it to be expressed constructively. And I mean, without you don't need name calling. If somebody disagrees with you on some issue regarding this George Floyd situation, how one's responding to it, then it can be stated in a constructive manner. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.